Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. We're preparing for the upcoming winter storm in Western New York, which is sort of an oxymoronic thing because we always get winter storms in Western New York. But this one seems to be stepped up in terms of its, like people are actually making plans to not go out to dinner and hunker down through Saturday and Sunday. Whenever that happens for us, it never turns out to be a storm as big as people think.
I know. It's like
They change they change their plans, and they're like, oh my God, it's like, we're stocked up on bread and milk, and we're in the case of some of my other friends, alcohol and beer, and then it ends up being nothing. So anyway,
the stupidity of it all. I did just get an email from the NHL. Real quick, I'll mention. So the skills competition is fastest skater, premier passer, NHL save streak, NHL puck control, NHL hardest shot, NHL accuracy shooting. That's what the events are this year. If anybody, isn't
my yawn.
I know you, but I'm just letting you know.
that was an actual real yawn and not a fake.
So Bob Kraft, came out today and extolled the virtues of one Tom Brady, and that's great. He says he's definitely the greatest player of all time, which again I do think is a red herring because you can't match up like a quarterback to a running back to whatever, right? So
he's the son I never had.
Yeah, I get that. He's definitely the best quarterback of all time. Nobody's going to argue that. But then, now I'm hearing it get morphed into the greatest athlete of all time, and I'm going to tell you who I believe the greatest athlete of all time is. And I probably will write something about it this week because it's not Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a great athlete. Don't get me wrong. But this athlete was really great in pro sports and in non-pro sports, and that's Jim Thorpe.
I was going there, yeah.
To me, he's the greatest athlete because when he played for the New York Giants, he hit 285, by the way. So he was a pretty good baseball player. He won Olympic medals that got taken away from him. He played for Lehigh University, and he actually downed his own punt. Now, I've argued this with people because it's in the newspaper, and they were like, well, newspaper accounts in those days. I'm like, yeah, but think about it. If you kick a ball in the air 50 yards, but the hang time is like Mike Bragg, and let's say it was like 5 seconds, 6 seconds, that is enough time for the guy to get down and make the play. It definitely is, especially when you are a world-class track and field guy. So,
and didn't he play in what was like he played in the NFL, I believe, or the Canton Bulldogs or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the NFL at the time.
Right, it may have been the precursor to it was professional football.
Yes, he played professional football as well. He pretty much did anything he wanted to do athletically and didn't have the training, the vitamins, the quarterback gurus, all these other things that players have. Like, people always want to bring up Bo Jackson, and he was a natural athlete too.
Yeah.
But even he had more training than Jim Thorpe did at his available to him.
I mean, you can see. I know people have said Deion Sanders, because he played, but Deion Sanders was not a good baseball player.
He really wasn't.
But Bo Jackson was a slugging outfielder, and I still remember that play where he climbed the wall in center field.
We all remember that.
And an unbelievable running back. And I remember watching that game against Cincinnati where he hurt his hip, and he was never the same. And it was such a tragedy. But yeah, no, and
Herschel Walker's up there too, but they're not at Jim Thorpe's level. They're just not, because I don't know how many. I gotta see Jim Thorpe. I gotta see how many Olympic medals he actually had.
I think it was 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it was 4 or 5.
Something like that. But yeah, no, that's, I mean.
Yeah, he did play for the Canton Bulldogs from 1915 to 17 and 19 and 20, the Cleveland Indians, the New York Giants, the Rock Island Independents, the Tampa Cardinals. Like, he coached, like, I mean, he was on, okay, so was the NFL. He was the NFL on the NFL's 1920s all-decade team. He was on his first team All-Pro in 1923. Like, this guy was ridiculously talented, just ridiculously. Olympic career, 1, 2, at least 4: javelin, 200-meter discus, And so, yeah, looks like about 4 medals.
Yeah, and just I mean, we're not going to. I don't want to make predictions on the NFL, the championship games, because I don't want people betting on what I'm going to say because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know who I'm rooting for. And I have nothing against the Rams, but I think I'd like to see the Saints get there because I would love to see a Breeze and Brady matchup.
Yeah.
I'd love the two 40-year-old quarterbacks, probably their last. I mean, they could keep going for a couple more years, but their last sort of kick at the can type of thing. Mahomes is great enough that he'll have other opportunities to get to the Super Bowl. It's going to be tough for the Patriots to win in Kansas City, though, but I don't put it past them because I don't put anything past the Patriots. They've just defied logic for a number of years, so it's possible that they could go to Kansas City and win, although I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't bet on it.
All right, so 2 things. It looks like in 2005, they actually figured out that Jim Thorpe also played for a traveling basketball team. Like, it's just, I know, it's crazy. All right.
Jim Thorpe was Meadowlark Lemon. He played for the Globetrotters. There you go.
Yeah. So as far as football goes, I do think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win. I wouldn't bet on it either, but I think Tyreek Hill is the secret ingredient, because the thing about the Patriots is their defense is pretty good, but they don't have like the fastest linebackers or the best secondary. And you get Tyreek Hill the ball and one person misses a tackle and you can't catch him. It's impossible to catch this guy. And Mahomes is so tricky that I don't know if even Belichick can really deal with him, because he can throw with either hand. He seems to get rid of the ball no matter what and almost never gets sacked. So we know Brady can match a team for score, but I don't know if they have as quick an – I don't know if Brady can do it as quickly as the Chiefs can, but I'm expecting a high-scoring game for sure. And I think the Saints are beating the Rams. I just think this is the Saints' year. I think they're going to win it all. I think Drew Brees is this is like his last chance to win another Super Bowl, and I think he's the second-best quarterback in the league. I do.
Yeah.
And you look at that team with the receiving core they have, with Alvin Kamara, with a pretty good defense that I think the Eagles fans were surprised at how good they could be.
Yeah, but apparently one of their defensive linemen got hurt in that Eagles game, so that might I've heard people taking the Rams because they think that they don't have any way to stop Gurley. So,
yeah, but Gurley might stop himself. He's a little banged up. And I don't think Gurley is 100%. And if that guy's not 100%, he's like a thoroughbred. He really needs to be 100% to get the most out of him. Because you're right, they need him desperately. The thing about Kamara is he can receive or run the ball. I think he's a more of a dual threat than Gurley, So it'll be Goff against Breeze, and I'm going to take Breeze every time.
Right. Yeah, and one last thing, the Yankees signed Adam Ottavino to a 3-year contract, who's a relief pitcher. And I know he had a good year last year, but I looked at his stats before last year, and they weren't anything like, great, unbelievable. It's like they're talking about like, oh my God, the Yankees have this incredible bullpen now with Britton and Chapman and Betances and Ottavino. I'm like, you don't know how this guy's going to react to New York. I know he's from New York. You don't know how he's going to react to New York. You don't know how he could come in and be one of these relievers who just doesn't work. And but it's always a roll of the dice with relief pitchers and with starters.
And even Britton's had some ups and downs. He's really good, but he's had ups and downs. Like, you're right. Every year, the one thing we've learned about Major League Baseball is relievers, it's year to year with these guys.
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice. All right, let's start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, January 18th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. What you got, man?
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockeyuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We'll talk about a couple of the there was one I would say major trade yesterday and one minor one. And just to start off though, the frequency of trades, I know that it was mostly Anaheim over the last few days and them trying to like right the ship. But a lot more trades a lot earlier than normal, and we're 5 weeks out. The trade deadline is February 25th, so we're 13, 48 day or 38 days away.
Right.
So that's a little over 5 weeks. And, usually it starts to pick up, I would say, within a month. And this time, now there's been more business than I had expected, Russ.
Yeah, there's definitely been more business. And I think it's simply because it's past the halfway point of the season. Mm-hmm. So when you come back from the All-Star game, you can't say, well, we have half a season left, because you don't. And with the way that everything is so tight, I think it has made teams start to think, all right, let's make our last-ditch effort now. We won't break the bank making a trade. Yeah. See if we could artificially spark the club. And if we can't, then at the deadline, we'll have to be sellers. And I think a fair amount of these teams that have made these trades, that's exactly what will happen to them.
Yeah, now the bigger of the two deals yesterday was the Victor Rask for Nino Niederreiter deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'd heard Niederreiter's name out there for, I'd say, at least a month, maybe more going forward, because his totals were down. I think he only had 9 goals. Yeah. He wasn't playing as much of a primary role as he had in the past. I know that when watching Hockey Central, it was either Doug McLean or Brian Burke who indicated that Bruce Boudreau and Nino Niederreiter were not the best of friends. So he was a player that, if he did something bad, he would get demoted in the lineup. And in the case of Rask, I know Rask had a lengthy injury at the beginning of the season, but he hasn't been the same player. And he had scored over 20
promoted as well. He was only getting 9 minutes ice time in a couple of these last few games, and he still was on a point streak of like 4 points in 5 games, getting like 9 or 10 minutes of ice time.
And when they signed him that lengthy extension, I mean, I think he had scored 20 goals, and everybody was saying he was going to be their number 2 center. And then his fall was precipitous in Carolina, and they seem to move on from him. I mean, up the middle there, they've got Stahl,
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
Let's move on from Victor Rask, who is a young guy who's got all these skills. He's an excellent faceoff guy and a good two-way guy. And let's hold on to an aging Jordan Stahl. That makes sense.
Well, no, but it's a question of
tell me what the sense is of that.
And Stahl has had injury problems over the he's starting to see that the wear and tear take a toll on him. But
how old do you think he is?
Who, Jordan Stahl?
Yeah.
I'd say probably 28, 29.
Yeah, he's 30, but you would think he's like 35 by the numbers and everything.
But, he's played tough minutes over the years. He's been, I mean, when he was with Pittsburgh, he was behind Malkin and Crosby, but he was playing matchup roles and stuff like that, playing third line, matching up against the other team's top center. And I think he's been more of a 1 or 2 in Carolina. No, I mean, I think simply it was the fact that Rask was not working out in Carolina. They were ready to move on.
Why is he not working out?
I don't know. Well, I'm
going to tell you why. Because they have a new coach in Ron Brindamore, who has had an up and down season as a brand new coach. Mm-hmm. And he, for whatever reason, demotes Victor Rask. Rask goes down to the 4th line, I believe it was. And remember that guy Meilanen, who I told you just came up? He actually started to click with him. And I think it was Doug Abrams that said he had 4 points in 5 games. Like, that's something where it shows you that Rask has the ability to really make a lot of other players better. And they just fell out of favor with him because, for whatever reason, and we'll never know, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But as far as being a point producer, he's always going to get more points than Nino Niederreiter, right? Niederreiter's a better goal scorer, and he's a little bit tough. There's no question. Victor Rask is a way better player otherwise. So the other part of this equation that I think is worthy of talking about is you said, hey, is this a bona fide goal scorer? Because that's what Tom Dundon said he was looking for.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, just to illustrate the point, they signed him to a long-term contract, making $4 million a year. The first year of that deal, he scored 21 goals, 27 assists. Next year, 16 goals, 29 assists. So mid 40s, respectable numbers, and $4 million. If you're getting that for $4 million, that's not bad.
And he's a center. And he's a center.
And he's a center. And he's, as you said, he's good on faceoffs. Last year, his point total dipped to 31 points in 71 games. I know he had an injury this year that kept him out for a significant period. This year, 26 games, 1 goal, 5 assists. So it's clearly, and it was clearly a situation where he wasn't playing well, and then they started playing him less. And how can you break out of not playing well if you're not playing enough? So that's why I'm saying I think it's a change of scenery for both players. But to the point you just brought up, Niederreiter is not a goal scorer. I mean, he's a decent forward. I think he's more of he's a top 9 forward. He's big. He likes to hit. He'll provide a little sandpaper, which I'm sure, somebody like Brindamore who played like that in his career will like. They probably think that they have enough center depth with Neckish coming next year, or maybe even later this year, along with Aho, along with Stahl. So they don't need Rask. Yeah. But the talk is, Russ, even after this deal, is that they're still looking to move a defenseman for a goal scorer. So this was not the move to make the goal scorer. This is a move to, I think, bring in somebody who they think is a better fit for what they're looking for than what they had.
Okay. And to illustrate the other point about Rask, so like Mailani comes up and he has 4 goals and 1 assist, and a lot of that has to do with Rask. His 2-goal game, Rask had 1 of the assists. Like, again, this is something where I think Minnesota looked at this and said, wow, we could actually get a center and save money. This is tremendous. We're going to do this deal, and we'll do it every day of the week.
And the funny thing is, and I mean, we can't assume that Rask is going to like all of a sudden turn it around, but it's very possible that he could. If you look at Minnesota right now, with the cap restraints that they have, they're probably not going to be able to re-sign Eric Stahl, who scored 42 goals last year. He's making $3.5 million now. He's 34 years old. He's having a respectable year right now. But if he wants to re-sign to Minnesota, they have no room to do it.
No, I think this is it for him there. I do.
Right. So that means that probably Rask, if he turns it around, is the replacement up the middle for Stahl.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a smart move. I mean, I give Fenton all the credit in the world. This is a good move on paper. This is a good move in the ledger. And this is a good move for the team because it's not like Rask slows you down either. He's faster than Niederreiter. So, he made his lineup a little faster too. I'm not saying, Carolina got hosed on a deal. I think Niederreiter will score goals with them. But I think we have to look at Don Waddell and start breaking down these deals because I'm not sure they're any better than they were in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I think this deal has a reshuffling of the deck chairs feel to it.
But what about last year's deal? We already talked about that, where it looks like Calgary's way ahead in that one.
Oh my God! Well, yeah, please. I mean, just look at that deal right now. Remember, it was Elias Lindholm. It was, it was Hannafin and Elias Lindholm going to Calgary. It was Ferland, Dougie Hamilton, and the rights to Adam Fox, who's playing at Harvard. At this point, Lindholm is having a career year. Hannafin's playing well in Calgary, and Calgary's in first place or near the top of the Pacific Division. On the other side, Ferland is a UFA asking for $6 to $7 million in free agency. Carolina's probably not going to pay that, and they'll probably trade him, which means maybe they get a second-round pick and something. Hamilton's name is out there in trade speculation because they're heavy on the right side, and Fox could be the Jimmy Vesey of the summer of 2019 because he could decide to leave Harvard, turn pro, and by August 15th could sign with anybody as a free agent. So it's possible they could have nothing if they trade Hamilton. They could have nothing but draft picks and futures to show for Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm after this year.
And that's why you have to be careful when you go into a team and say, we're loaded at this. We're going to change the culture. Let's make trades. And that's where you have to be careful because just because it looks like Carolina is loaded right now on the blue line and up the middle, I don't think Jordan Stahl has a lot of years left in this league. He's still great at faceoffs. He's still a good two-way guy, but if he's going to score 15 points, 18 points a year, he's not going to play much longer.
Yeah.
And so that's something where I think people need to look at that. I could see Jordan Stahl going back to the Penguins and them signing him like for the minimum at some point.
Yeah, I also have to bring this up just because people have to watch out for this, and we didn't get fooled by it because nobody retweeted it, but it came out yesterday. Some idiot with a fake account decided to make up a fake Derek Brassard deal with Columbus, because there had been some talk from Aaron Portzline that the Blue Jackets had been talking trade with the Penguins on Derek Brassard, and then they posted a trade that ended up being completely fake. And it's just, I mean, would you please get a life? I mean, they think, I mean, what is really the point? So you can fool people who do this for a job for 5 seconds before they find out you're a jackass. I mean, it's really stupid. It's really
Mike Doyle tells us that analytics people are saying the opposite about this trade. And I'm not going to rip analytics people, but I'm going to say, if you just look at what Minnesota got, Mike pointed out they got a replacement center. I pointed out that they got a highly skilled guy. He's a little under 50% this year on faceoffs, but he's right around 50 for his career. So he's a pretty good faceoff guy. He's a good two-way guy, and he might go back to 35, 40 points a year. I don't care what the analytics of that are. That is great for Minnesota, and they saved money.
Right.
They needed to drop money off the cap.
They saved $1.2 million, and that's significant. So
yeah.
Okay, let's touch on a few of the games from last night. Start with the meeting of the best team in the NHL against one of the better teams in the league, which is Tampa Bay and Toronto. 4-2 victory for the Leafs. They have 16 wins on the road. That's really good, and they have played really, really well on the road. At home, they're only like 13, 10, and 2, which is not good, and it's a little surprising with all the offensive talent that they have. I'd say the biggest factor in this victory was Freddie Anderson bouncing back for the first really good effort since coming back from his groin problem. He was unbelievable.
He was great. I watched it. He was tremendous.
Yeah, 36 saves, and I mean, Tampa Bay has just got so many weapons, and that game. Every time Toronto took the lead, Tampa Bay came right back. The
biggest problem with the Leafs, and I don't know if this is on a game-by-game basis, but I've seen teams like this before. It seems like every time they get a goal, they're at risk to give up a goal in the next minute or two after that.
Yeah, they get comfortable.
Yeah,
they do. And the thing is, it's like a couple of their struggling players. Nazem Kadri scored a goal, played really well. Patrick Marleau scored a goal. He was flying. It's so amazing.
Marner play was great. That Tavares, bouncing puck, he actually passed over to Marner, who was wide open. I don't know how Tavares got that on his stick.
Yeah, the hand-eye coordination from Tavares was great on that one. And I said it was poetic justice. And you have to realize I covered the Calder Cup final in 2012 between a John Cooper coached Norfolk Admirals against Dallas Eakins and the Toronto Marlies. And the most infamous play probably in AHL playoff history was in double overtime when Mike Koska shot it in off a stanchion, and Ben Scrivens went behind the net and the puck went off the stanchion and into the open net. And that was, I think that was game 3. And that pretty much buried the Marlies.
Last hockey version of Thor, like Noah Syndergaard is the baseball version.
And last night, down 3-2 with Vasilevsky pulled, a Leaf defenseman shot it off the glass, and it didn't hit the stanchion, but it hit like the glass protector at the top of the edge.
That's supposed to be out of play, to be honest. It is.
But they didn't. They knew it would have hit it. They didn't call it, and it went out. And Hedman and Stamkos and everybody was like raising their arms and
immediately. It wasn't like after the fact. I think
it was during the play. It was. Yeah. But Hyman put it in the empty net, and I just thought it was sort of poetic justice that a John Cooper team got screwed. But I'm sure he'll take the Calder Cup victory, which got him promoted to the Tampa Bay job.
But I do want to mention a couple things about that game. First one is I give Zach Hyman a lot of credit. He just donated $100,000 to the Toronto Hospital for Sick Children.
Yeah,
I spent some time there as a kid. I was very happy to see that, and he's not like the richest guy on the Leafs, so that's nice.
No, but you know what? He's a fantastic guy. He writes kids books. He is really involved in the community. I know that people have problems with him being paired up with talented players like Matthews and Nylander and Marner and Tavares.
He
but you ask those
corners, man. He does.
You ask those guys, they love him on those lines because he works. And the Leafs need 2 or 3 more Zach Hymans. They really do.
They do. Now the elephant in the room is you get a play where it's a 2-on-1. They feed William Nylander the puck. He's got the whole corner high of the net open. Vasilevsky, there's no way he can cover it. Nylander shoots, and he shoots it to the moon. And I had to actually rewind that and see, because I was like, how is it possible that this guy could even miss the net on this play? Because they set him up. You couldn't be set up anymore in any NHL game for a perfect one-timer. And you just look at his face, and he is like pained. It's in his head now.
The thing is, and Nick Kyprios did a highlight package in between periods on the Sportsnet broadcast about sort of a side-by-side comparison of Kasperi Kapanen and Nylander, and because they were talking about what Kapanen's going to make as a restricted free agent. I'll just say this: Kapanen is playing great right now, but this is his first good year, and going into an RFA, if you've had one good year, you're not going to hit the big payday unless you sign for 5 or 6 years. He's probably going to sign a bridge deal, so he's not going to be making $3 million or $4 million a year. It's just not happening. But they're comparing Kapanen and how the effect he's had on the team to Nylander and Kyprios. I think
Kapanen played a better game. He did.
Kapanen played a better game, and he's played better all year. Now you can say that Nylander is at the disadvantage that he didn't go to training camp and he didn't play the first.
He wasn't in shape.
Yeah, he clearly. Yeah, he clearly, to my mind, is not in shape. He's played last few games. He's played great in the first period, and then has tailed off in games.
Yeah, and they shortened his minutes for a while. I don't know about recently, but
and in the third period, when they're up 3-2, Babcock put Connor Brown on the line with Hyman and Matthews because Nylander defensively is not up to snuff right now. But the whole point, and I see people on Twitter saying that the critique of Kapanen v. Nylander and people talking more prominently about the way Kapanen is playing is sort of gaining force in the media, and they think that's lazy because analytically they think Nylander is a better player, and they point to some certain
analytics didn't help him.
I don't give a flying what his analytic numbers are right now. Based on how he's played in 18 games, he has been crap. And Kasperi Kapanen has been one of the unsung heroes of the Leafs this year with his speed, with his two-way ability, and he's scored 15 or 16 goals. There's no comparison right now.
I'll give you an analytic moment. When he missed that goal, that's an anticipated goal that's never going to happen, because right now he is just his head is so messed up that his mechanics are messed up on his shot, and he rushed it. And he shot, like I said, I mean, if you go look at that play, it was wide open. He would hit that every time last year.
Yeah, no, I am not underestimating the talent.
I'm sure his teammates are feeding him to get him off of this slump.
And I think that's affecting Matthews right now because they put him with Matthews, and Matthews is struggling, and they have two struggling players together, and it's not working. But I do not underestimate the talent of William Nylander. I've watched him play since he came over and played with the Marlies in 2015. I've seen him throughout his career. I think he's a great talent, but he's not playing well right now. And I think I continue to think that he is going to have problems until maybe until the end of the year, but I'm going to be surprised if he's on this Leafs team next season.
I agree. I will also tell you that with Matthews, I saw some mediocre to bad plays in his defensive play, which is unlike him, and almost like one of those guys that's collapsing down low just so he thinks he's doing something near the net where he's leaving a guy wide open up at the circle. Like he did that a couple of times. And I was really surprised that he did that because with his size, really all he has to do is challenge a guy up high with this stick, and he could jog. He can make a guy change the direction of a play. If he's collapsing down low with his back to players, that's bad.
Yeah, I think he's trying to, because he's struggling offensively, he's trying to do as much as he can at the other end, and
He's doing the opposite by doing that.
Right. But I mean, he's still not the most experienced player, and I think,
and that's my point. Is even when you think like one of these young prodigies is a young prodigy, there are going to be times where they have hiccups in their seasons.
But the funny thing is that recently they've been wholly reliant on the combination of Tavares and Marner, and that's their most consistent pairing. And I don't care what William Nylander needs to get jump started. You're not breaking up that combo, because there's been some people saying that they should put Tavares with Nylander to get him jump started. How many different lines? How many different combos do you need right now to try to get one player jump started? He either has to motivate himself to get going, or his coach has to motivate him, or they have to do something, dramatic to get him to wake up. But
now the chat room is like, well, somebody said that they doubt that Dubas will trade Nylander when his value is at his lowest. It's not, his value is not at its lowest.
No,
he's just a guy who had a horrible start to the season, didn't trade hard enough, didn't go down for conditioning. Teams understand this, and next year is what they're looking at. If a team gets William Nylander in a deal at the draft, they're looking at what he's going to be next year. No one's worried about what he'll be next year.
Right. Remember this about Nylander, and then we'll move on. His cap hit is 6.9 from next year for the next 5 years. Next year, the money that he's being paid on the second year of his deal is $9 million, and 8.3 of it is signing bonus due to him on July 1st, which means year one of the remaining 5 years, he's being paid $700,000. If the Leafs wait until July 2nd, they're trading a $700,000 player in terms of money out of pocket to a team. And I mean, that
gives a lot of value.
That gives a lot of value, and he is a 60 to 70 point player. I am not saying William Nylander is not valuable. He's just not playing the way he's supposed to and up to his talent level right now. Couple other games. We'll take some questions in the chat. We'll do a couple of our sort of GM game here, because of a couple names that popped up. Bruins beat the Blues 5-2, and the thing I noticed about that game, Russ, Jake Allen in goal. It's like Jake Allen in goal. I'm ready to put an L.
I know, but they can't play Binnington every night, so I'm glad they did it. And Binnington played great in the overtime loss to the Islanders. And actually, I think it was Kat Silverman made a real good point. And I think we all knew this, but it's good to just illustrate it once in a while. Like 3-on-3 overtime is the hardest on the goalies. It's just awful. It's awful for goalies. It is. And so I think it was smart to play Allen just to give Binnington a night off. The results are predictable. Like, it's just Jake Allen is going to get traded. Teams will want him, because there are different goalie coaches out there that will say, hey, look, his cap hit's not that high. We think we could do something with him, and we don't know if he'll be our starter or backup, or maybe we'll have a tandem. You can still use Jake Allen in a tandem.
Jake Allen has got 2 more years at $4.35 million.
Not a terrible cap hit.
Hello, Chuck Fletcher. There is your bridge gap. Yeah, there's your bridge gap. Oh, by the way, the other trade made yesterday was of a minor variety. Justin Bailey, a former second-round pick of the Sabres, goes to Philadelphia for Taylor Lear. This is an AHL deal, but Bailey, a couple years ago, the Sabres were quite enthusiastic about Bailey in terms of, because he's a big kid, he can skate, he's very athletic. His father was a former Buffalo Bill linebacker, so there was always the critique that he was sort of a football player on skates, really a great physical specimen, but didn't have tons of skill. Maybe that's something that develops over, in the next couple of years, and he can be a useful third, fourth line guy for the Flyers. So, what do you think of this deal, Russ?
Yeah, I tweeted. I've watched him pretty intently over the years. He was even in the top prospects game, if I remember correctly, and back in the day. And the thing about him is he can skate. He is a great athlete, and he's got a good shot. He is not a finesse guy, and he's not necessarily an energy guy either. Like, people I hope he's just not an energy guy. He's really not. He's either going to be like a good third liner, or it's going to be a bust. It will be one or the other for him, I think, because
He could be like a Belmar.
Yeah, he could be like a Belmar, a little bigger Belmar. I think that's a very good example. The thing about him is, and this is something I noticed from him early on, and remember, I always thought he would be late in developing. So 23 to me is not late for him, and that's why I think it's good that the Flyers are taking a chance on a kid like this. I've always seen games where he just wasn't fully engaged for the full 60. I know Sabres fans have heard that before with me talking about Alex Nylander. Well, I had the same thing with Bailey, and I wasn't, and I asked around, and I heard similar murmurs too. If he gets past that, and he's a guy that's fully engaged, and he has a nice little run in Lehigh, he definitely can play some games for the Flyers and really prove to a new GM and a new regime that, hey, I can make this team. So this is a good trade for Fletcher. Obviously, they need a lot more, but this is a start.
Now, what can the Sabres fans expect from Lear? Is he just a minor?
Lear is fast. Okay. He can penalty kill if you give him the chance. He's smart and he's strong. He's just not a finisher at the NHL level. He'll kill it in the AHL. For Rochester, he'll do great. But at the NHL level, for some reason, he hasn't been able to finish. He's pretty good with zone entries. There's good things to like about him. People always get, again, with Lear, you can go back, and he had huge years. I think it was with Portland in juniors and had a lot of points. Don't go by that. Okay. This is the Lear you see, is the Lear you see today, and he's not a finisher. I think when people say they simply traded size for speed, I don't think that was the case with the Flyers. I think they're looking for even a little more than that.
Other games, Islanders beat the Devils. Devils continue to struggle. Islanders stay in the playoff race. Winnipeg beats Nashville 5-1. That's a big win for the Jets. Those teams are probably going to meet in probably in the second round of the playoffs this year. Rangers beat the Blackhawks 4-3, and this was a signature game for Henrik Lundqvist. Who did he tie or eclipse?
He tied. He tied Terry Sawchuk for 6th all-time in wins, and then I sparked the usual debate on my Facebook page that's still going on, 17 hours later. And the interesting thing about it is this. It doesn't matter what I say, and it doesn't matter what Joe Q Public says. The hockey world says Henrik Lundqvist is an all-time great already. And he's 6th on the all-time list. Yes, if you want to say shootouts gave him a few more wins, fine. My argument to that is, so he'd be 7th right now. At the end of the day, he is going to be a Hockey Hall of Famer. Yep. At the end of the day, he is better than Mike Richter. It doesn't matter that you've won a Stanley Cup, and Richter was terrific. I've told people I push for Richter to get into the Hall of Fame. But if you're matching up the two, you have to go with Henrik Lundqvist. Now, there was an interesting argument. Derek Felix on my page said, well, Richter would have gotten 100 more wins if he didn't get hurt. He would not have gotten 100 more wins. He would not. He was already starting to decline a little bit. When he was in the All-Star game and they had the shot competition where he blew his knee out.
Yeah.
He was already a little bit less than he was. Now, the skull fracture obviously did him in, and he had to retire as a result of that. But he already lost something off his fastball from that. What was that, 2000 at the All-Star game?
I can't remember.
It was 2000 at MSG, I think.
But just to put it in perspective, 100 more wins is 3 good seasons.
Yeah.
That's usually a good goaltender wins 35 to 40 victories depending on how many starts.
He had 31 wins like 4 years before he retired.
Yeah.
He was never going to get 35 wins a year again. Even if the team had gotten better, he wasn't going to get that many wins. So to say he was going to get another 100 is silly. Now, years ago, I said that I felt that Lundqvist might be able to challenge Brodeur. If the Rangers didn't go on a rebuild now, maybe he would have gotten close. He's not going to get close now because the Rangers aren't that good.
Well, the question is, again, how long is the Rangers rebuild going to be? And we both have talked about the fact that this might be sort of a 1-year turnaround, that they're going to go out and spend money for Panarin or whoever. But, Lundqvist he's 36 years old. He's got 2 more years left in his contract. I think he's going to play out the contract and then he'll be done. So that means
he'll play the contract out, but if the team is good, they might want him back and he might come back like year to year. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. I think that's safe to say.
Now, the scary thing, again, for Blackhawks fans in that game is Savard is the guy out with the extra attacker on the ice. no other defenseman. How much are we talking about when you've got Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook on the bench when the game is on the line? How much money is that?
That's overall almost $12 million.
$12 million. Now, the other interesting thing, this is how desperate the Blackhawks are. When the game was on the line, they did have Dylan Strome out there with DeBrincat because they're familiar with each other. And then they had Kane and Taves. So you had the young bucks, the aging stars. You had the one defenseman that they can count on to handle the puck. And I forget who the other player was Saad in front, and he is not the same. That was just a bad trade because he had been trending down already before they got him.
And he's only 26 years old.
Doesn't matter.
I know, but it's bizarre because he was a great player. I mean, not a superstar, but he was a
really effective player. But again, he was never that fast, and he did take a lot of shots because he's a guy that would always go to the crease, and sometimes it does slow a guy down, and he wasn't really doing much in the crease to upset the Rangers. Now, the goalie actually played pretty well. Was it Colin Delia?
Yes.
He actually played pretty well.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I know he lost, but it wasn't a bad game for him.
I'll just mention this because Elliot Friedman just retweeted it, and it's the first that we've heard from him since the strange buyout, or not buyout, the strange vacating of his contract. Patrick Berglund talked to a Swedish newspaper or website and said, I've been feeling like, I'll say, crap. He admits that he didn't show up for practices and games, called the suspension nothing but correct, says he's disappointed in letting the city of Buffalo and the Sabres down. So, I mean, it was just a weird situation. It's like, basically walking away from $12 million and 3 years remaining left in the contract. I can't draw from that what exactly is the nature of the problem, whether it's depression, whether what it is. I just hope whatever it is, he gets it straightened out because he was a good player, and I've heard some of his teammates in St. Louis talk, namely TJ Oshie is with Washington, say that he was a really good guy and he was concerned about him. So I hope whatever is going on with it gets straightened out going forward.
I have to admit, who's the player? I was looking at my phone.
Patrick Berglund.
Oh, Berglund. Yeah, he's definitely got some issues, and he was a pretty good player. I agree. Just to toot my own horn, just for a second, Elite Prospects just announced that Hockey Prospect Radio is now going to be on their website for replay. So people always ask, hey, if I didn't catch it on Sirius, where could I listen to it? You could listen to it on Elite Prospects. It's on their pay side, but it's not a lot of money.
Congrats on that, because Elite Prospects is a great site. I use it all the time. Just to touch on this though, Seabrook is at $6.875 million. He's 33 years old. Duncan Keith at $5.53 million. He's 35, and he's got 4 more years. Based on the decreased role that the Chicago is using both of these guys, good luck trying to move them.
Yeah, you can't.
Good luck.
I don't think you can unless you're going to eat half.
Unless you're going to eat like $2 million on Keith, and he's a $3.5 million player.
Right.
But the question is, do you want to take that risk for 4 more years? So yeah,
nobody's going to do it for 4 years. They'll be able to trade him maybe in the last year of his deal if he's even playing at that point.
Well, they won't. They probably won't do it because of the cap recapture ramifications, because if they trade him away, then and he decides to retire, then they get hit with that penalty all at one time in the last year. So they'll probably just keep him, put him on LTIR or something like that.
They might, and you're right. He's not tradable. And again, I used to think the world of Duncan Keith, but now having seen a few more Blackhawks games, they don't have faith in him. They don't.
He's just not there anymore. It's not the Duncan Keith of old.
No,
just a couple other quick games, and we'll take some questions in the chat, and we'll do one or two the GM game here. The Ducks break the 12-game winless streak with a 3-0 victory over Minnesota. It seems that, based on the comments that I heard Brian Burke talking on Hockey Central about Bob Murray and about Carlisle. I'm of the opinion now that they're not gonna fire Carlisle for the rest of this year. They're just gonna ride it out because
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, from what Burke is saying, it says that the excuse. I mean, and you can say it's an excuse, and I know a lot of people would love to see Randy Carlisle fail again, but they really have been devastated by injury. So it's really has hurt them. When you lose Fowler and you lose Raquel and you lose Perry and Kessler is a shadow of his
former self. That's not going to happen every year now.
No, exactly. Oh, I think this is probably Carlisle's last year unless they get in the playoffs and make a run, but. Yeah, I mean, it's just you've got a bunch of older players, and I think that they have to really start to think about, either buying out Kessler or doing something. Or I mean, I don't know if there's a way out for Anaheim because they got so much money tied up in so many older players.
I agree.
And the last one was the Kings beating the Stars 2-1. Jack Campbell gets revenge apparently on his old on the team that drafted him.
It's really not a revenge game, though.
Right. I mean, but that was the narrative that was put through there. Okay, GM game. The name of
hold that thought. Okay, keep rolling for a second.
I'll fill for a second. The name that has popped up over the last few days, and we know LA is going to sell. It's just a question of who and what they get. The name of Jake Muzzin has popped up. And now this is the thing. I think that the cost that's being floated out there for Jake Muzzin is obscene because they're saying right now that Rob Blake is expecting to get a first and a top prospect. I don't think you're getting that.
What's his salary at?
I think it's $4 million.
Well, you got to look at it. I mean, he's 29 years old. He's got 20 points, so he's a guy that can still get 30 points a year. He logged 21 minutes of ice time. I don't think Blake's that far off.
Okay, so and he's not on the rumor chart yet, but I don't have a specific team. So let's just say generically, do you think that the price that's out there, a first and a prospect, we don't know if it's grade B, but you think that's an expected or a fair?
I do, because even his shooting percentage is higher this year than it's been. The team is just bad. So he's not going to have the same numbers, but he still could end up with around 40 points. He could play top 4 minutes. Does that sound familiar, Mike? He's a top 4 guy. He is. Just saying.
Okay. Let's go to Derek Brassard. Now,
okay.
There is rumors about Brassard going back to Columbus where he was drafted. I look at this potential deal, and I don't know where the fit is because if you look at Columbus, okay, they want to strengthen its center. This is a rental, so it may not cost. If it's a typical rental and it costs you a second round pick and a prospect or something like that, then I think that's probably in the realm of possibility. But it's rumored out there that Pittsburgh wants to get something of significance back for Brassard. I don't think they're going to be able to get something of significance.
You can't get something with significance at this point. Brassard is a guy that if you're getting him, you hope that he could do what he did with the Rangers, at least in the postseason. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Brassard has been a nice NHL player. He's never been great. He's had 160-point year, 158-point year. But other than that, he's been a pretty ordinary guy. When you look at his playoff numbers, they're okay. Like, he's 44 points in 59 games is good. So that's what you're hoping. I gotta go take this talk out. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no, I live show, folks. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, Brassard, they expected a lot when they got him from Ottawa. I think they expected him to be what Nick Bonino was during the 2 Cup years, and he hasn't. I mean, he hasn't gelled really with Kessel to give them sort of secondary scoring above and beyond the line with Crosby and the line with Malkin. So I mean, I don't think if the goal to trade Broussard is to open up cap space to make another move, because he's got, I think his cap hit is $3 million for the rest of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think you can get away with trading him for, say, a second round pick and, a prospect. And I'll look down, like, maybe a Gabriel Carlson or Ryan McInnes or somebody of that nature, for Broussard, and then the Blue Jackets get some depth up the middle, and the Penguins get an alleviation of their cap situation, and maybe they can add someplace else. But if you're expecting to get like rental for rental, or a rental for somebody who can help you longer term, I don't think that Jim Rutherford is going to be able to pull that off.
No, I mean, you're really just getting a B or C prospect or a third-round pick. That's what you're going to get for Derek Broussard, because last year he had 4 points in 12 games for the Penguins. He really didn't do what they'd hoped he was going to do for them.
All right, let's take some questions from the chat.
All right. Questions from the chat.
And we'll continue to do this, because the reaction to doing the sort of GM game has been positive. And if you guys want to make some suggestions of potential trades that we would sort of bat around and say if it's it fits and maybe what could work, we're open to that as well. So you can include that in the chat as well. Terry
didn't know what the fake announcement was. It was Brandon Dubinsky for Derek Broussard. So
yeah, and if you look at that, it's totally asinine.
The only reason I thought it was plausible is because they did activate Dubinsky yesterday. So I was thinking, all right, if they activate him and they trade him, it's not too far-fetched.
No, but the cap hit. I mean, it's fun. Yeah. He's making almost $6 million for 2 more years, and that's the last thing that Pittsburgh wants.
Right, which is crazy. All right, let's see. Bill C is asking, is Guy Latouche a playoff of MXC or just a coincidence? I don't know. Do you?
Nope.
Okay, move on. Bill C wants to know if Tiger Woods is the greatest athlete of all time. He's not even greater than Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah, he's not. No, sorry.
I mean, he's a better athlete than Jack Nicklaus, but Nicklaus is a better golfer. Like, I don't think there's even a debate there.
Yeah, please.
All right.
The Tiger cult. I'm sick of the Tiger cult.
All right, let's see. I went way back because there were some questions even early on.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said, who's going to take Jordan Stahl? Somebody would take Jordan Stahl.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he still plays fourth-line center really well. And so if you're a team –
not third.
Well, on a playoff team, he's going to be fourth.
I mean, this is the problem with Jordan Stahl. 4 more years at $6 million.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, nobody's touching him at that. Nobody's touching him at that.
Yeah, if it was 1 or 2, I don't think it would be a problem. 4 more, that's painful.
But if I were Carolina, I would have tried to eat some salary and trade him instead of Rask, but that's me. All right. Because I would rather keep the younger player.
I mean, if money was such a consequence for Dundon, he would have to probably trade a prospect along with Stahl to move him.
Right.
That might work. There are teams out there that would say, okay, we'll take him as our third line center for the next 4 years. He provides size, he provides experience, this and that. But you have to give us Julian Gauthier or Jake Bean or somebody.
I do want to remark that clearly Drew has a drinking problem because he was trying to ask a question of Mike that would have prompted a certain answer, and we already got that answer from a different part of the show, so we're not going to go there. He probably just wants another drink, though. Bill C wants to know, is Quinn Hughes playing in the NHL this year? That's all I want to know. He has a Bruins logo. Why does Bill C want to know this so bad? That's the big question to me. But yeah, he could play in the NHL after Michigan's done. It's possible because after that, he's going to play in the NHL next year.
I mean, there was talk around the end of the World Junior that Vancouver wanted to sign him right after, and that was
that cooled off, and maybe because he wants to finish out the year at Michigan, and he didn't have the greatest World Junior. Let him finish out his year at Michigan, and if they end early enough, then that's great. If they're in the playoffs, like Doug McClain said, then yeah, Quinn Hughes can play in the playoffs. But that's
remember, it might be a case where Quinn Hughes will sort of leverage playing this year and burning off a year of entry level, as we've seen in the past with players. I actually think Besser did it with them. He played the last game of the season, and that burned a year of the entry level deal off.
Yeah. Now the guy who has his name as Guy Latouche, I don't know if he's actually answered that other question from before, but if he didn't, whatever. But he's having some fun saying Neal to Carolina. Yeah, nobody wants the James Neal contract. Nobody.
Yeah, I remember it was a 5-year deal, and it's only in year 1. And what is he playing, fourth line, right? I mean, that's the one mistake right now with Calgary. Everything is going well except for the James Neal signing. It's just been a disaster because everybody thought he was going to play with Monahan and Goudreau, and they make the deal for Lindholm and put Lindholm on that line, and it clicked. And now Neal is without a home in a sense. I mean, how much do you think he regrets not taking the 5-year deal and staying in Vegas?
Yeah. So Mike Doyle says, should the Pens go after Muzzin? No, because they can't afford the first round pick or the prospect because they don't really have the prospect to give them anymore. They traded Sprong. They're pretty much running out of deals. And so right now, no, they can't afford to do that. I don't care what Pierre LeBrun said. We know what the asking price is, yes, but I don't think the Penguins are going to be one of those teams that are heavily into it because unless they're trading somebody again like Brian Rust, you know, they can't do it. And I don't think they could keep picking apart the offense without her.
Here's more on Patrick Berglund from our friend Ufi Bowden.
Okay.
He says, it's a cliche, but money doesn't make you happy. I'll give it all up anytime just to feel good inside. When you feel bad as I did, and I feel what I feel today, I really feel I've made the right decision. Okay. Money is the last thing that means something to me right now. Well, I mean,
we did talk about that could be an issue when he did this.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think he had made like 15 or 16 million in his career up to that point. So if you've made 15 or 16 million, it is easier to give up another 12 if you are truly unhappy.
Okay. So. Yeah, I agree. No, and we did say that could be the issue.
Couple more questions.
Okay. Thomas says the Islanders play the Caps tonight. Wonder if they'll play him again. Oh, he's talking about Leonard. No, I have a feeling they won't, but we'll see. I don't know if you want to play Leonard so many games. Right now, you have a chance to give him a little bit of a break while they're having a great point in the season. Give him a little break. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, the Leafs are playing Garrett Sparks for the first time in the second of back-to-back against Florida. So most teams are going to play their backup in the second or in one of those two games.
Yeah. Randy says, Russ, I'm doing an NHL blog. The topic is on who to follow. You're one of your followers I want to mention. Then I would say Doug Abrams. He's a Hurricanes fan. He knows the Hurricanes better than anybody. It's Abrams, right? Did I get it right this time?
Abrams.
Yeah. He knows the Hurricanes, man. Follow him. Let's see.
And if you feel like talking about the Leafs, follow me.
Bruce asks, are the Flyers getting a veteran goalie back? I think they're going to be looking at it. Stellaris is down with Lehigh right now, and right now Elliott's skating on his own, which means maybe he'll be back after the break sometime. But I don't think they trust Elliott really anymore. And Neuwirth is not even in the picture. So I do think they will get a veteran, or if they decide that they want to go with Hart and Stellaris, they may decide that, but I don't believe that will be the case. So, but they are going to give Stellaris a chance to play some games. I don't know how many, but I do think they need to see where he's at because he's another guy that may have to get dealt just because, he's run his course. They gave him a contract, a multi-year deal. So, I mean, they could use him in Lehigh and let him be the standard Lehigh guy. That's fine. Maybe they do that. Let's see.
Last question.
Esmir wants to know, why are so many people hard on Dylan Strome? It seems like he's found his footing in Chicago, especially playing with the Brinkhead. Yeah, I agree. I am not hard on him at all. I actually just was a little surprised that they went with him at the end of the game. But again, I pointed out that he does know how to play with the Brinkhead, and they did look pretty good together. So no, I am, I'm not that guy. I know people have been that guy. So, no, it's not the case.
I'm just willing to give Dylan Strome a second chance because Arizona has been a cluster with a lot of their prospects, and I think he deserves a second chance.
Steve wants to know, did Neil win a cup? Yeah, I believe he was on at least one, maybe two.
I think he was on. Was he in Pittsburgh in 2009?
Yeah, at least one of them.
Yeah.
And then this last one, Jonas, I'm sorry, this is borderline absurd, but could I see the Leafs targeting Philippe Myers in the offseason? Yeah, the Flyers aren't going to offer him up. I don't think they're trading him. He's getting called up next year. He'll probably get called up at some point this year. And Adam wants to know, is Hughes close versus Capo Keiko? I always have to say his full name, otherwise it's hard to process. Is he close for number one? No, I don't believe he is. I think you will see horribly written articles that will make the case that it is close. I think when you talk to scouts and people in the know, that's not the case.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to ask somebody from the Leaf organization to see how close they thought Laine was to Matthews, and if there was.
Mike says that Neil never won a cup. I thought he was on that 09.
I thought he won that 09, but okay. But I'd like to find out, from if I could ask Kyle Dubas off the record or somebody in the Leaf organization, how close they thought Laine was to Matthews, because
he's still with Dallas. Sorry, yeah, they're right. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
But no, I just this, because
how close they were. Yeah,
because that like at the World Championships when they both played, everybody, Laine played so much better, and then Matthews was actually playing pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think the reason that the Leafs went with Matthews was because he was a center and he had a better all-around game. So at the end of the day, anytime if you think the goal scoring is close or the points are close, you're going with the center.
Yeah. All right. Great show. We will be back on Monday with another edition of the Hockeyuzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.